What's up, everybody? So we got UFC Freedom 250, the White House card coming up soon, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. Now, we only have 7 fights on here, but this card is absolutely loaded. The fact that we have Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira on the same card, I think is an absolute treat. But the main event, we got Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. Co-main event, we got Alex Pereira moving up to the heavyweight division, taking on Ciryl Gane for the interim heavyweight title. We got Sean O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi, Josh Hokit versus Derrick Lewis, Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler, Bo Nickal versus Kyle RDR Daukaus, and Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. Banger matchups. Really looking forward to this card. Without further ado, let's rock and roll right into this thing. Our first fight of the night, we got Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. This is a sick fight, and I think that this is easily one of the best fights on this entire card, and it's a BMF style of fight. Both of these dudes bring it every single time. Now, I've went back and forth on this one because Diego Lopes is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. He's super exciting, nasty power on the feet, really high-level jiu-jitsu, and the only guy that he's really struggled with in the UFC has been Alexander Volkanovski, who is the greatest featherweight of all time. So outside of those Volk losses, we've seen Diego Lopes look really, really good, man. He gave Mobsar fits in his UFC debut, and that was short notice for Diego. He had Mobsar in all kinds of danger on the ground. Diego's got nasty power in his hands, and if the fight hits the deck, you are in real trouble of being submitted. And on the other side, you have Steve Garcia, who to me has been the dark horse of this division for a while now, and he's on a crazy win streak, knocking a lot of dudes out, and even though he hasn't fought the best competition in this weight class, you can't deny what he's been doing, right? Beating the brakes off of Calvin Kattar, that knockout win over Mel Costa has aged very well, and most recently starching David Onama. Like, everyone sees Steve Garcia now. Like, he's got nasty power, excellent boxing, and one of the things that I find so impressive about Steve is he's made so many improvements in his game. Like, early in his fight career, he would just kind of get into the pocket, not move his head, get knocked out. Like, the knockout loss to Mahashate, that's not a good loss. But outside of that, he has gotten so much better and looked really, really good. So I've went back and forth on this fight, and I think it's going to be very, very competitive. But I am ultimately going to pick Diego Lopes to get this one done, and I'll say by decision. Now, having said that, I could very much see someone getting finished in this fight because I think Diego Lopes, he's got the grappling advantage. And I would not be surprised if Diego comes into this fight and looks to wrestle early, because one of the things that we've seen about Steve is he's a fast starter. He'll get in your face, starts popping the jab, and then once the jab gets moving, that is where that left hand begins to follow. And the thing about Steve is his shot selection is almost perfect. He works the body, mixes in the kicks, and his head movement has gotten so much better, right? He's slipping and ripping, getting into the pocket, landing these big uppercuts to where he's going to have to be very, very careful doing that, though, because as fast of a starter as Steve is, Diego Lopes can absolutely match that energy. And one of the things we've seen from Diego is if you are more of a stationary striker and you come to him, that's where Diego can land those massive shots and put you away. So these guys are two big dudes in the featherweight division. They both have tons of power. I think that Steve is the more technical boxer here, and I think that he's the more technical striker. And I do expect Steve to be aggressive, but be patient, right? Because if he just comes crashing forward, I think Diego, he's got a nasty game in the clinch, right? He's got good elbows, good knees, and he loves to rip those knees and uppercuts in close. And we see Steve kind of weave his head underneath. So I think he's going to have to be very, very careful doing that. But we've seen Steve Garcia's takedown defense. It hasn't necessarily been tested against the cream of the crop in this weight class, but it's looked pretty good. He's got good elbows. If Steve can somehow get on top of Diego, like rock him on the feet, Lopes is on his back, Garcia's got some nasty elbows. So I think this is a competitive fight. Steve Garcia is a guy that I've been saying is the dark horse of this division for a long time now. I'm happy that he's getting this opportunity, and I think Steve is very, very live to win this fight because The thing that kind of sways me in the direction of Diego here is, as technical as Steve is, and I think he's the more technical striker, Diego is more durable than Garcia. And I think at some point, this is going to be a phone booth firefight. I think Steve will start technical to where he's just kind of poking the jab, trying to pull Diego into some of those shots. But, Steve will kind of lean that left shoulder forward. He'll feint the left hand, and then sometimes he loads up. He kind of has those early fight jitters to where he gets a little bit wild. And I think that that's where Diego Lopes is going to be able to capitalize. And the interesting thing here is Diego has been in a bunch of 5-round fights recently, right? The 2 Volkanovski fights, the fight with Jean Silva. Yes, Garcia's coming off of a 5-rounder against David Onama, and he got it done in the first round, so never really got to see him have to push hard for 25 minutes, to where we've seen Diego go a full 25. And I don't think Diego, a guy that's super explosive, we saw in those fights that he has to kind of pace himself. I think he can be a lot more all gas, no brakes in this fight. I think he's got the grappling advantage. He's super dangerous on the ground. And I've been saying this for a while. Diego reminds me a lot of Charles Oliveira in the effect of, you're in danger on the feet, he can take a shot, and if the fight hits the ground, you are in real danger of being submitted. So this is one of those fights where it's an open stance battle. Diego's the orthodox fighter. Garcia, the southpaw. It's where those rear tools are going to be available. The left hand of Garcia, the right hand of Diego, and then the kicks to the body, and then setting up a head kick, I think, is an option for both guys here. And the fact that Garcia's a southpaw, I think, kind of takes away one of Diego's better weapons, which is that low leg kick. So, we know with Diego Lopes, one of the weaknesses of his game is he doesn't have the best footwork, doesn't cut the cage off very well, just kind of follows you around in that high guard. But the thing about Diego is he can counter very, very well. And the interesting thing, too, is Diego really hasn't been in there with a lot of southpaws, right? At least that I can remember. So it's going to be interesting to see how Diego approaches a southpaw, right? You're going to have the little outside foot battle going on to line up the backhand, to where we've seen Diego does a great job slipping his head off the center line, firing the right hand, the left hook behind it, because he basically knocked out Brian Ortega with the right hand, and he shouldn't have thrown the left hook behind it because the left hook woke Ortega up, right? So outside of the Volk fights, we saw Lopes rock Volkanovski very bad in the first fight. The second fight was even more of a wash than the first one. Volkanovski's on another level. He's got great footwork, outstanding fight IQ. He's a super well-rounded fighter and one of the all-time greats. Steve Garcia, very exciting, very dangerous. I think he's got a real shot here, but I got to go with Diego Lopes, the guy that's been in there against some of the best fighters in the world. And if I think, and I think if there was no Volkanovski in this weight class, now that Ilia is at 155, I think Diego Lopes would be the featherweight champion, and I think he will be at some point. Diego just worries me, though, man, because he's taken a ton of damage. I know he's got an iron chin, but when you're taking so much damage, he doesn't move his head very well, and you're in there with a power puncher that's got good technique in Steve, I could absolutely see Garcia stinging up Diego Lopes, outscoring him, maybe even dropping him and finishing him. Like, how crazy would that be if Garcia beats Lopes, especially if he stops him? Like, who knows? Maybe they give Garcia a title shot, man. So big opportunity for Garcia on this card. I'm happy he's getting this opportunity, but I think it's a competitive fight. I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets finished, but I am going to side with Diego. He's got a ton of experience in the UFC against some of the best guys. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter, and I think that Garcia, while he's gotten a lot more technical, moves his head well, he's kind of hard to hit, I think he gets a little overzealous at times, and if you do that against Diego, that's where Diego can make you pay with some of those big power shots. And in the clinch, I think that that's where Lopes is going to be able to find some success, to where I could see him, either knocking out Garcia, dropping him, hopping on his back, and possibly submitting him and getting him out of there. Love this fight. This is a banger matchup. I just want to sit back and enjoy this one, but I got to make a pick here. I think Diego Lopes gets it done by a decision. Like I said, wouldn't be surprised if either guy can pull it off and find a finish. Kind of rooting for Steve a little bit. Even though I like Diego, I really like Garcia as well. I think it would be awesome to see him get it done, but I got to go with Diego. I think that there's just levels here. Next, we got Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus. Bo Nickal versus Kyle RDR Daukaus. Man, I got this weird feeling that Kyle Daukaus is about to be a really nightmarish matchup for Bo. And what really kind of makes me intrigued about this matchup is, obviously we know that Daukaus, he was in the UFC, things didn't look particularly good, goes back to the regional scene, and something just clicked. Right? He just starts knocking everybody out. We know he's got a nasty Darce, right? The Darce Knight. He's got nasty submission skills. But ever since not being in the UFC the first time, goes back to the regional scene. Like, this dude has just became just much more of a menace on the feet. His boxing looks tighter. His technique looks sharper. And obviously, if you get rocked by Daukaus, you're in grave danger because his submission skills, they're very high level. Very, very high level. And when I look at Kyle Daukaus, this dude reminds me of RDR, right? The frame, the build, the look. He's a southpaw, some similar tools. Now, I'm not saying that he's as good of a grappler as RDR, and obviously we know that RDR is massive for the middleweight division. But Daukaus, to me, I feel like I got this weird feeling that he can implement a similar game plan. And I think that Daukaus has better hands than a guy like RDR, right? So if RDR, can go out here and push Bo Nickal up along the fence and let those knees go and utilize kind of that lanky, weird Looney Tunes frame, I could see Daukaus replicating a similar game plan. But I am going to side with Bo Nickal in this fight, and I think he gets it done by a close decision. Because here's the deal. I know that Kyle Daukaus, since coming back, right, I think it was short notice, steps in, knocks out Michel Pereira, which that was very, very impressive. A lot of people, I didn't see that coming, right? Michel Pereira, I know that, he's basically a known gasser, has like 1 minute of cardio, and then outside of that, he fades. But the Daukaus that we saw in his first stint in the UFC is not the same guy that we are seeing now, right? Rocked GM3 really bad, was able to submit him and get him out of there. And I know it's like, well, if, he beat GM3, who cares? We just saw Jacob Malkoun go distance with GM3 to where GM3 was giving him some fits. So it's obvious that Daukaus has made improvements. He's a southpaw. I think that he's kind of got better, technique than Bo Nickal when it comes to the boxing. He's got better shot selection. He's a little bit more of a natural striker than Bo. And I think if Daukaus can utilize his frame and push Bo Nickal up along the octagon side and start to let some of those knees go, see if Bo has a solution to addressing the clinch game. Because I think that that's an area of weakness for Bo is in the clinch. But having said that, Bo Nickal, to me, is stronger than Kyle Daukaus. He's a much better wrestler. He's way more athletic. And Bo Nickal impressed me in that last fight against Adolfo Vieira. And I know you could say, well, man, ever since, that fight, Vieira went in there and he got outscored by Eric Moicanico, who was able to tune him up. So what does that say about Bo Nickal? Bo Nickal, I feel like that's one of those situations where Vieira's just not going to be the same guy. Because that head kick was ferocious, and Bo Nickal was just outstriking him and picking him apart the entire fight. Bo Nickal at one point picked him up in the air, slammed him off the deck. I just think Bo Nickal, he's an unbelievable wrestler, man. And I know at one point, even to this day, Bo Nickal, he's got an ego, which I find annoying, but I like Bo Nickal. I think Bo Nickal has a ton of potential. And I know he's not, a spring chicken, right? I know that, he's only 8-1 in his career. He's very, very limited in terms of the amount of fights that he's had. But we're seeing rapid improvements in his game. And I know that this may sound crazy to say, but the fact that Bo lost to RDR so early, which it was clear that that was too much of a step up in competition at the time, I feel like that loss has made Bo better. Because if Bo would have just ran over RDR, do we think that Bo Nickal, his head would have gotten even bigger, which would have been even more of a disaster? But I feel like it forced Bo to really work on a lot of things. I feel like he added on some size. I feel like he's stronger and his striking looks much better to me. I'm not saying that he's like some sort of, whoa, man, he's this technical maestro out there, this technical wizard on the feet. And I will say, I do think Daukaus is the cleaner striker. Kyle Daukaus, when he's throwing, it's like he's not really thinking. He's just going. He's reacting and throwing, to where Bo looks like he's just kind of thinking about what he's going to do, because the striking to me doesn't feel like it comes supernatural to Bo. But I think he's got the power advantage. I think he dictates where this fight goes. And as long as Bo does not get tired, we've seen that his gas tank is good. As long as he doesn't get tired, I think that he can beat Kyle Daukaus in every aspect of MMA. I know Daukaus has good submission skills, but I think if Bo Nickal gets on top of him, Bo's got some nasty ground and pound, and Bo has good submissions as well, right? Training over at ATT, we see him switch stances from time to time to be able to blast those calf kicks, right? It's going to be basically a, southpaw and southpaw matchup, to where I think that, Bo's going to be able to butcher the lead leg of Daukaus, slow him down. Bo loves to spam that big, ooga booga winging overhand left, which he was too dependent on, right? Early when he fought Paul Craig. And looking back on a lot of the matchups that the UFC gave him, like, I know that they weren't giving him the greatest of competition. Kind of weird matchmaking in a way, because there was a lot of guys that were basically grapplers, to where it forced Bo to essentially just kickbox with these guys. So I would like to see Bo utilize his skill set more, which is being a dominant wrestler. And I know that he doesn't have the greatest control at times, right? Because in MMA, it's not just wrestling. It's what you do with the takedowns, getting to the back, controlling guys, utilizing the jiu-jitsu. But I think on the feet, Bo's faster. He's more powerful. His jab looks a lot snappier. Now, he does drop his hands a little bit, to where I could potentially see Daukaus countering him, landing a shot on Bo, pushing him up against the fence, playing the clinch game, kind of like what RDR did. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that Daukaus is RDR, but I feel like he's going to watch that fight and try to utilize a lot of the things that Renier did, right? Jabbing, pushing Bo forward, backwards, up along the fence, knees and elbows in close, trying to get, if Bo will kind of let his ego get the best of him, pick you up, drop you down to the mat, and then that's where Daukaus can look to scramble, sweep him, and create some opportunities to possibly find some sort of submission. So I'm interested to see how Bo approaches this fight. Is he going to look to grapple with a really good submission ace in Kyle Daukaus? Because we've seen Bo go in there against these, solid jiu-jitsu guys, and he chooses not to grapple with them and strike with them on the feet. So I'm not counting out Daukaus in this fight. I think he could potentially be very, very tricky for Bo here because he's got a ton of experience. I feel like he's a different fighter since coming back into the UFC. But if Bo Nickal fought Michel Pereira, as long as he doesn't get starched in the first minute, I think Bo Nickal would get Michel Pereira out of there. And I also think Bo Nickal would probably knock out and then ground and pound out GM3. So I think Bo Nickal gets it done. I feel like this is a matchup the UFC clearly, I think, wants Bo to win. And I think he's got more power on the feet. He's more athletic. His striking is looking better and better every single fight. I think he should mix it up, though. I'd like to see the full Bo, skill set on display here. Now, I will say, Bo sometimes looks like he can slow down a little bit. Like he starts to breathe heavy, right? And that's why I say that I think Kyle's going to try to work the body early. But I don't think that Daukaus, when the fight hits the deck, while he's got good submissions, I don't think he has the same kind of bottom game as a guy like RDR. So I think that if Bo gets on top, Daukaus is going to have some issues getting out from underneath of him. So I could see Bo winging a big shot, knocking out Kyle Daukaus, finishing up with some ground and pound, and getting him out of there, maybe even taking the back and finding, a submission against a, rock Daukaus. But I got to go Bo Nickal here. I think he gets it done. I'll say 30-27. I think he gets a clean sweep across the cards. I think Daukaus has a moment here or there, but I think Bo Nickal, he'll be very prepared here. But I will say, Bo Nickal in a very high-pressure moment, right? The president likes Bo Nickal. Everyone's kind of expecting him to win here. Kyle Daukaus, to me, is not a layup. I think Daukaus is a harder fight than maybe most of the guys, if not all, that Bo has fought up to this point. So maybe a harder test than what people think, but I still think Bo will get it done. We've seen him improve a lot. We've seen Daukaus improve a lot, but I'm going to go with Bo Nickal. I think he's faster, hits harder, and I think he'll mix everything up and scramble the brain of Daukaus and just be able to win a unanimous decision here. Good fight, though. All right, we got Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler. The UFC, poor Michael Chandler, man. The UFC said, don't worry, Chandler, we're not going to give you the McGregor fight. We're going to give Holloway the McGregor fight. We're going to book that at International Fight Week. But don't worry, Mike, we'll put you on the White House card just as you wanted. But no Conor. Sorry, we can't do that. We're going to give you what looks like a prime version of Conor McGregor that, in my opinion, is even more dynamic than what Conor was back in the day. I think Mauricio Ruffy is one of the most impressive talents in the UFC right now. And if you've been following my channel, I've been saying it since the jump. Mauricio Ruffy has the it factor. He's got the X factor. And his style reminds me a lot of a prime McGregor smashed together with Poatan Pereira. Right? He kind of plays with the long guard, gets those hands up, right? We'll look to parry. He throws that Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, fadeaway left hook. He's got sick timing, man. He's got nasty calf kicks, right? Doesn't really shift the shoulders, snaps him out there just like Alex, like Ian Gary. And he's got sick timing, sick timing. Mauricio Ruffy, to me, is one of the most exciting fighters to watch right now in the UFC. I think that Ruffy is going to butcher Michael Chandler and absolutely destroy him. The only path to victory that I see for Chandler in this fight is to basically shoot a blast double, get Ruffy down, be able to control him, destroy him on the ground with ground and pound, and be able to just keep him down for 15 minutes or get some sort of ground and pound TKO stoppage or just throw a whistling right hand down the middle that you just catch Ruffy off guard and are able to clip him early. Because outside of that, Ruffy is going to just tune up Michael Chandler, man. Michael Chandler back in the day, in Bellator, the crazy, Eddie Alvarez fight and, all that kind of stuff. Chandler in his Bellator heyday was nasty. That right hand straight down the middle, super fast, very explosive, and Chandler is still very explosive. But if we have to be honest here, Chandler, yes, very entertaining. Who has he beaten in the UFC? Debut win against Dan Hooker, Okay, fair enough. Almost knocked out Charles Oliveira, to win the title. And it's like, man, Chandler was that close to being the lightweight champion. People forget, man. He was a few seconds away from possibly being the lightweight champion. But outside of that and soccer, kicking a field goal on Tony Ferguson's chin, right, and flatlining Tony Ferguson, like, he got dropped by Tony. And yeah, he had a war with Gaethje where he was predominantly getting beaten up. I know he landed some good shots, right? We had a war with Poirier prior to getting submitted. Like, Chandler's had moments against a lot of these guys. He's coming off of the worst performance of his career against Paddy Pimblett. And I know that for a while, Paddy Pimblett was underrated, and I picked Paddy in that fight, right? I figured that he would be able to out-grapple Chandler, would be able to outscore him on the feet, but it wasn't even remotely close. He dominated Michael Chandler. And when Chandler fought Oliveira in the rematch, like, we saw Oliveira basically just control him for 25 minutes. Paddy was able to stop Chandler, which was incredibly impressive and had a lot of us believing that, man, he's got a real shot against Gaethje. So I think Michael Chandler is going to come in motivated. He's very explosive, right? He throws the right hand to the body, will shift stances, move forward, kind of go peekaboo, Iron Mike Tyson-like, ripping underneath with these big combos. But the problem is he's going to be at a reach disadvantage. He's going to have to try to get to the inside, and Mauricio Ruffy just doesn't let you do that for free. And I know that Ruffy's, basically one slip up in the UFC was against Benoit Saint Denis, to where Saint Denis was, he's a southpaw, ripping the kicks to the body, bringing him upstairs, and we saw Ruffy be very, very gun-shy in that fight. He was very, very worried about the BSD takedown, to where I'm hoping that that's not how Ruffy's going to approach guys that have some sort of grappling threat moving forward. I'm not saying to be reckless to where they could just easily get in on your hips, but that kind of worries me because if Ruffy is like too stationary in front of Chandler and too reserved because he's worried about the grappling, that's going to open some things up and give Michael Chandler a chance here. But I don't think Ruffy's going to show Chandler the same kind of respect as BSD because while I think Chandler is more devastating with the punching than Saint Denis got better kicks. Saint Denis has better control and submission abilities on the deck than Mike Chandler. Chandler doesn't really have a submission threat. And Chandler's one of these guys where his ego gets the best of him. He launches you, he gets all excited, and Chandler fades as the fight goes. So my thoughts on this is Michael Chandler, maybe he gets a takedown. And if he does, I could see him keeping Ruffy down. Now, I will say, I think Ruffy's lateral movement has gotten a lot better. We saw it in the Fiziev fight where he was moving really well along the fence. He shucked off some of the Fiziev takedowns, and we know that Rafael's got some underrated takedown abilities. But Fiziev is a much better striker than a guy like Chandler. Much faster. Well, Chandler closes the distance faster with the hands, I will say that. But overall, Fiziev is a lot faster. Better head movement, better defense, better striking variety. Also has a grappling threat. And look how Ruffy dusted him, man. Ruffy, I think, is just going to be pinging that jab from range. And I want to see Mauricio be more active with his striking. Get the calf kicks going. Chandler stands very bladed. He doesn't deal with calf kicks very well. And once you start attacking his lead leg, he starts to kind of lift it up, move a little ginger, and it starts to mess with his head. To where I think that that's where Chandler will come in, and then Ruffy can counter him with a left hook. But we know Ruffy's got that nasty little bolo uppercut he throws up the middle, a nasty pull counter right hand. Mauricio Ruffy's going to butcher Michael Chandler. It's just the fact of, does Chandler get to a takedown to where he can keep Ruffy down and drag the fight out? If that doesn't happen, I think Ruffy KOs him in the first round. But I'll say Ruffy, second round knockout. Maybe Chandler has some early moments. This is a nightmare of a matchup for Michael Chandler, man. And I think Ruffy training with Volkanovski, I feel like his takedown defense is only going to get better. So we know with Chandler, even if he has a good first round, he'll be explosive. He'll slow down. Ruffy will take over, batter his lead leg, rip precise shots, be able to counter just about everything Chandler does and be able to get him out of there. But we know how Chandler is. He's exciting. He's got a ton of power to where if he lands clean, sometimes Ruffy keeps his hands low, rolls with shots very well, but that chin is there. That chin is there. We saw Saint Denis landing some good shots. If you rip kicks to the body, he brings his hands down a little bit. So I do think there's some openings for Chandler here. But Mauricio Ruffy, he's too accurate, too precise. I'd like to see Ruffy be a lot busier with the jab in this fight because once he started to be busier with the jab against Fiziev, boom, would sting him, boom, would sting him. He feinted it and then threw a darting, super accurate piston of a right hand right down the middle, which was a laser beam, and was able to put him away. So I even think like Bob Green has been on a crazy win streak right now. I think Bob Green would beat Michael Chandler. So the fact that Ruffy made that look so easy against Green, like we're seeing outside of the BSD fight, Ruffy's legit, man. One of the best strikers in the UFC. I think he schools Michael Chandler and makes it look really easy and gets him out of there. Second round knockout. Chandler's too reckless, leaves too many holes for a precise counter striker like Mauricio Ruffy. Mauricio's a beast, man. Next, we got Josh Hokit versus Derrick Lewis. The good news for Josh Hokit in this fight is he's not Russian. Now, if you don't know what I mean, when Derrick Lewis fights these Russian fighters, he gets these phone calls from the president that, and then Derrick Lewis is like, oh, I forgot. Trump called me before the fight. I got to knock this Russian motherfucker out. You remember that when in the Volkov fight, to where he got that phone call and he's like, man, I got to go out here and remember, I can't lose the Volkov. I got to find a way to KO him. So the good news is there shouldn't be any phone calls here to Derrick Lewis because Josh Hokit is American. So I think that's an advantage. I'm joking. That's an advantage for Josh Hokit coming into this fight. But realistically, Derrick Lewis, I give him probably like a 25 to 30% chance to win this. Derrick Lewis, I think, is actually going to come into this very, very motivated, right? He's been requested by the president to be on this card. I think D-Lew is going to come out here and give it all he's got. But he's in his 40s now. And Derrick is one of these guys where he is just, to me, such a lazy fighter. Some nights Derrick shows up and it looks like he actually wants to be there. And then other nights he shows up and he's like, I don't feel like doing this. Like that's literally how I would kind of describe Derrick Lewis. But the thing about Derrick, the last thing to go is power. And even though he's in his 40s, this is heavyweight. If he lands clean on still a relatively inexperienced fighter in Josh Hokit, this isn't Curtis Blades. If Derrick Lewis lands an uppercut or a big winging right hand or the left hook step through that he landed on Teixeira, Josh Hokit is getting knocked out. There is no, Josh Hokit's a good athlete, he's durable. None of that matters when you're fighting a power puncher like Lewis. Lewis is the knockout king for a reason. That said, Josh Hokit is going to win this fight, and he's probably going to TKO Derrick Lewis in the very first round. I know I was building it up, man, because, with Derrick Lewis, I really like Derrick Lewis, and I really don't, it doesn't really matter to me who wins this fight. And the good news is, an American is going to win on this fight, so we're at least going to get a win here, just like the Nickal and Daukaus fight. Two USA fighters are definitely winning on this card, so that's good. Josh Hokit's too fast. And as cool as I think it would be to see Derrick Lewis get the crazy KO and then he get on the microphone and then maybe his balls will get hot and something crazy will be happening. We'll see a flying knee. We'll see that switch kick land, something like that. The problem with Derrick Lewis, we've seen him flop on the deck like a fish. We've seen him melt. We've seen him crumble anytime the fight starts to get kind of hairy. That's the reality. And not only when the fight gets kind of dicey and hairy, but also if the fighter is significantly more athletic and faster than Derrick just, he's like, the hell with this. I'm done. I'll live to fight another day. That's kind of the approach that I get from Derrick Lewis. Now, I don't know that he's going to do that in this fight, given the magnitude of this card, given the fact that he was requested to be on here. So I think that Lewis is going to come out here and I think he's going to look to land that big old shot. And Josh Hokit doesn't have the best, head movement, right? We saw in the Curtis Blades fight, it was an absolute war. And I did think Josh Hokit won the fight. And I was very impressed with Josh Hokit because, in order to be a Division I dual sport athlete at Fresno State, to play football, right? Be a tailback, a fullback, a running back, whatever. And then be a wrestler as well. That you have to be a sick athlete to be able to do that. So Hokit's not this ordinary heavyweight. And I know the shenanigans and the gimmick with the skit and all the cringe stuff. And a lot of that it's kind of like the Colby tactic in a way. It's almost like Josh Hokit is this big clown. And there's a lot of pressure, on him to be like, oh, well, he's the clown. And if he loses, it's like, haha. But you're already kind of going, haha. So it's not like he has anything to lose. But if you're the guy in Derrick Lewis who comes in here, you don't want to lose to this clown. And I think that that's part of the pressure, and I feel like that's what kept Curtis Blades in the fight because there were multiple times I thought Blades was going down, and I thought he was going out. So, to me, Curtis Blades, I know that Derrick Lewis has been able to knock him out. I know Lewis, it's kind of crazy that he has a win over Francis Ngannou, right? One of the most boring fights of all time. Derrick Lewis, the later part of his career, he's been a can crusher. We see how dog shit Talison Teixeira is, a bunch of taxi cab drivers from Brazil. Derrick Lewis has a puncher's chance, and that's about it. And the fact that Hokit is relatively inexperienced, I don't think Hokit will be scared of Derrick Lewis. He'll march him down. Hokit's faster. He's got better movement, and he also has the wrestling to where I think that would be very smart of Hokit in this fight. But you got to be careful, right? Because if you shoot a lousy entry, like we saw Curtis Blades do against Lewis, Lewis can time that uppercut and put you away, and then he'll be landing some nasty ground and pound shots, and then he'll say it's Herb Dean's fault, right? Derrick Lewis, if he can hurt you and put you down, his follow-up shots are disgustingly nasty, man. So the power advantage to Derrick, the speed advantage Hokit, footwork Hokit. Even though Hokit doesn't have the best head movement, he rolls with shots kind of well. And he kind of plays that game of, I'm slowing down and I'm kind of drunk and moving around. And then he fires back. So I feel like he plays possum in there a little bit. And Derrick does the same thing where Derrick's like, my stomach. And then you come running in, boom, get caught with a right hand. So it'll be perfect. Hokit will have to be perfect in here. He'll have to be very, very careful to not fall into any of those little games that Derrick likes to play, because I could see Lewis doing that. Right? Hokit's a little bit fast. Derrick's like, he's too fast. Let me, fake something up along the fence. And then Hokit comes running in and bang, I catch him. How crazy would that be? So I think it'd be fun to see a Derrick Lewis KO. Realistically, I just don't know that it happens, man. Hokit, faster, better cardio, better combinations, and he has the wrestling. And I think if Hokit's smart, he grapples early, puts Lewis on the deck. Now, the thing about Hokit's grappling, though, doesn't do the best job controlling dudes on the deck. So we've seen Lewis is very strong. He's just got that just stand-up ground game to where your technique goes out the window and he's just able to stand up for the most part. So I don't think Hokit will be able to keep him down. But if he does that, I think Lewis will slow down even more. So the combination punching of Hokit, even though for the heavyweight division, Hokit doesn't have that one-shot starching heavyweight power that we're accustomed to heavyweights having, he's still very explosive. He kind of reminds me of Cain Velasquez with the pressure, pace, the output. And I just feel like he's going to be a little bit too slick, a little bit too fast, hit and not get hit. And if you could do that against Derrick Lewis, you'll frustrate him. And then I think that Lewis will eventually crumble. I think that this is going to be a high-paced fight. And if Hokit makes it high-paced, I don't see Lewis making it out of the first round. But if it's a slower-paced fight, Hokit's being a lot more cautious, afraid to kind of enter, kind of playing a pick-and-poke game, I could see this dragging out to where maybe we go to a decision or Hokit finds a later TKO. Never counting out Derrick Lewis. He always has a puncher's chance, right? He'll kind of move around, show you the right hand, kind of roll his hands together, right? And it'll kind of rock back and forth and then boom, club you on the way in. I think if Hokit disguises the takedowns, he's way faster. Footwork, speed, give Lewis problems. I think that Hokit will melt Derrick Lewis towards the end of the first round and he'll hurt him. Lewis will kind of shell up on the ground and then Hokit, some ground and pound TKO shots to get him up out of there. Hokit, first round TKO stoppage. Next fight, we have Sean O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi. This feels like a showcase fight for Sean O'Malley. It feels like the UFC strategically picked out Ariel Helwani for this fight. Aiemann, Ariel Helwani, Zahabi. It is unbelievable how Aiemann and Ariel look alike. The reality of this fight is Sean O'Malley should not lose to Zahabi. This, to me, is a huge step down in competition for Sean O'Malley. Now, I mean that with the utmost respect because I like Aiemann Zahabi a lot, man. He's reposted some of my stuff on X. I like Aiemann Zahabi, especially when I said when Dana was hugging Aiemann Zahabi at the presser, I'm like, it's great to see Dana and Ariel squashing the beef, right? So I like Aiemann Zahabi, and I like his brother a lot. Firas Zahabi, one of the greatest coaches of all time, GSP's coach. They got a great camp out there. And I think that Zahabi will come into this very, very prepared. He's always got good game plans. He's a very smart fighter. And what I respect about Aiemann Zahabi's game, one, he's a very respectful fighter. I don't know how you could not like Aiemann Zahabi. But he's one of these guys that's not particularly gifted at anything. Doesn't have crazy power. Doesn't have crazy speed. Not a great grappler. He's just not particularly gifted at anything. But he's very, very dog tough. And he comes in very prepared. And he understands how he needs to get after these opponents when I feel like he's often outgunned. But if you look at his last fight against Chito Vera, I understand that close fights are not robberies. I thought Chito Vera pretty clearly won that fight. So if you're going to a really, really close call fight with Chito Vera, we saw what Sean O'Malley did the second time around against Chito Vera, which proved the first fight was an absolute fluke. That was the greatest performance, I think, of Sean O'Malley's entire career. Doing that to Chito Vera was unbelievably impressive. Stunned on him, popped his head with that knee. It was crazy. But I will say this about Zahabi. He's a slow starter to where I think that O'Malley's going to look to capitalize early. But if Zahabi can find a way to get an early takedown on Sean O'Malley, we've seen that O'Malley's, even though, he's a good jiu-jitsu, fighter and he trains a lot with the takedown defense, he knows guys are going to try to take him down. Sean O'Malley's takedown defense is not that good. Now, having said that, look who he's getting taken down by. Merab, Song Yadong. So it's not like he's getting taken down by scrubs or anything. He's getting taken down by some of the best guys in the weight class that actually have really good wrestling, to where I think Zahabi has solid wrestling, but it's not as good as those guys. But if Zahabi can get an early takedown, a guy that gets off to these slow starts, I think that that's what can make this fight very interesting as we get into rounds 2 and 3, because Aieman's one of these guys where once you crack him with a good shot and dang near knock him out like Jose Aldo did, it seems like that's when he wakes up and starts moving forward and really starts getting to his game. I just don't think he can do that in this fight because Sean O'Malley, to me, has a massive advantage here, and that is the speed. Sean O'Malley is a much better striker than Zahabi. And I know Zahabi's kind of got that little modified Philly shell, right? Rolling the shoulders, kind of moving forward, kind of Strickland-esque in a way, right? Very square, has some good leg kicks. His boxing is solid. I think Zahabi should be looking to wrestle and looking to attack the legs of O'Malley because even though Sean does a really good job of switching stances, he does a lot of movement. His legs are available. We saw Song get after his legs. We saw Petr Yan get after his legs. We saw Pedro Munoz do it. We've seen guys have a lot of success. Chito Vera attacking the legs of O'Malley. So I think that's what Zahabi's going to look to do. And he can't start slow in this fight because it's only 15 minutes. And if you fall behind against Sean, I think you're just going to get swept on the cards. But something tells me that Zahabi's going to have a little bit of success early. And he's going to start to kind of, move and groove. Things are going to start to look okay. And we're going to be like, hey, man, maybe we got a little bit of a fight here. But then that's when Sean O'Malley is going to crack him with a massive shot and be able to put him away in the second round. I think the first round is going to be O'Malley, kind of tuning him up, utilizing the speed, cutting angles, front kicks up the middle to batter the midsection of Aiemann and keep him off of him because O'Malley plays the matador role very well. He can fight very well moving forward, very well moving backwards. Great lateral movement, excellent footwork, can switch stances. O'Malley is a sniper, man. He's an absolute sniper, and I know he had that close fight with Song. I know he lost to Merab twice, but people forget, man, Sean O'Malley's a super high-level striker. His speed is outstanding, dude. He rocked Petr Yan badly. Like, who does that to Yan? Who's able to even, clip Yan clean? So, to me, this is, as much as I like Aiemann Zahabi, I respect his game. I like him and his brother Firas a lot, and I do think he has a potential. I think he has the potential to make this fight interesting, but you can't be a slow starter against O'Malley because despite people saying, well, O'Malley slows down sometimes in fights, O'Malley he does a good job in the later rounds. So I know it looks like he's heavy breathing, looking up at the clock sometimes. I think O'Malley comes in very good condition. His footwork will be too much. The speed difference it'll be too great for Zahabi to overcome. And I don't think as good of a grappler as Aiemann has, as nice of a win streak as he's been on, as, dog tough as he is, dog tough to me doesn't win a fight against a precise striker like Sean O'Malley. O'Malley's speed and precision, I think it's going to be too much for Zahabi in this fight, and I think he's able to catch him in the second round. But like I said, I think Zahabi will land a takedown maybe towards the end of the first round. O'Malley will still win the round. It'll be like Zahabi's confidence is starting to build, but then as he starts to, close the distance, that's where O'Malley can land that right hand down the middle because, listen, I know that Zahabi's striking is solid. We saw him knock out a Richie Long, which was a nice KO. We've seen him land some good shots on some good fighters, but he hasn't fought anybody with the footwork of O'Malley. And, Aldo, as good of a striker as he is, he's stationary right in front of you. Chito Vera, stationary right in front of you. O'Malley, a hit and not get hit type of fighter. And if you don't have the speed to be able to get to O'Malley, you don't have the combinations, you don't have a super high level skill set in a particular area, you're really going to struggle with O'Malley. So I could see it going the distance to where O'Malley just outstrikes him, picks him apart, tit for tat type of battles. Zahabi lands some takedowns to where maybe he can make it competitive. But I don't think Zahabi will have that much success with the grappling. I think that his grappling is solid, but not good enough to really trouble O'Malley. Even if he takes down O'Malley, I think Sean can work his way back up to his feet, not really having to necessarily, respect a crazy submission threat from Aiemann, and I think O'Malley tunes him up on the feet, batters him with the front kicks, and eventually pulls him in to a right hand. But the good thing about Aiemann, he doesn't really overextend on a lot of his shots a lot of the time, right? Which is what Aljo did when he came crashing forward, overextended, out of position to where O'Malley can catch you. So O'Malley will look to, catch you overextending. He'll get you to get out of position. He'll kind of feint something, you react, boom, and then, feint an uppercut, right hand around the guard. So those are how O'Malley sets you up. He's got nasty knees as well. I think O'Malley he's going to be way too fast and clearly a step ahead of Zahabi the entire time. I feel like the UFC booked this fight for a reason. Sean O'Malley should show out in this spot. I think he TKOs Aiemann Zahabi in the second round. Next, we got the co-main event, the interim heavyweight title on the line. We have Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. Man. This is my favorite fight on the card. And those of you that have been following my channel for a while now, you've known that since Alex came into the UFC, I manifested this fight. I was saying that not only was Alex going to go up from 185 to 205 and save the light heavyweight division, but one day he will move to heavyweight and we are going to get this specific fight right here. We manifested this, brother. This fight is sick. This is one of my all-time favorite fights that the UFC has booked. I've been nerding out over this fight. I could see it going a number of different ways. But at the end of the day, I think that Alex Pereira is going to knock out Ciryl Gane. And I think that it's going to be a mid to later round knockout. And I've already made a video talking about this. I do not think that this is going to be an easy fight for either guy. So even though I think Alex is going to knock out Gane, I think that he's really, really going to have to be careful and work for it. Because the thing about Ciryl Gane, while he doesn't have, every heavyweight has power, right? That Ciryl Gane does have power. But when you watch him fight, the way that he fights is he's very elusive, very light on his feet, so he's never really planting and ripping into these power shots. So, yeah, he has the power to where if he sits on a shot, he could definitely hurt a guy like Alex Pereira. But the reality is, when do we see Ciryl really sit on a shot and really sting people up? He's really kind of a death by 1,000 paper cuts type of heavyweight striker. Lots of movement. Frustrates a lot of these guys because they're usually much slower than him. The front kicks up the middle, attacks, the lead leg with the oblique kicks, little switch kicks, gets the jab going. Then eventually he starts to wear you down, starts to frustrate you. These guys, they just can't keep up with his technicalities and speed. And then they usually start to wilt. And then that's where Ciryl Gane can just, start the avalanche. And then once it starts going downhill, you can't get out of the way and Gane TKOs you. That's really how Gane TKOs people. Alex Pereira is going to be a harder hitter than Ciryl Gane. I have no doubt about it. I've been saying for years, I watched Alex his entire career in glory. This guy has had heavyweight power at middleweight. His power translates to any weight class. And the big advantage that I think Alex is going to have in this fight, most heavyweights, yeah, they have power to where it's like, man, if they can just land on Gane, they'll put him away. Of course, it's a heavyweight fight. The only guy that we've really seen that can go tit for tat with Gane for a long period of time is Volkov. And Volkov, to me, is one of the most underrated fighters of all time and one of the best heavyweights of all time. He's been incredibly underrated for a long time, and I thought that he beat Gane in their second fight. Volkov mixed things up really well. He was attacking the legs of Gane, attacking the body, mixing in the head kicks. I like Volkov. He don't have shit on Poatan. Poatan, even though he's probably going to look a little bloated in there, look a little bit on the tubbier side, a lot of the way looks like it's been going into the legs and the rear end, man. Sean O'Malley already covered that for us. No diddy. I'm just saying, I think Poatan, he's going to look beefy in here. He's going to look big. We've seen some of the sparring in there to where he's just absolutely lighting up Talison Teixeira, which I know that that's not saying much because we see how bad Talison is, but still, Talison can actually move decent for a heavyweight. Alex Pereira has the capabilities to do everything that Volkov was doing, but at a higher level and at a faster clip. Alex Pereira is, Ciryl Gane is going to be faster. I don't really have any doubts about that. I think that Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall are faster than Alex Pereira all around. And I do wonder, will Alex look a little bit slower from adding on the weight? But man, we've seen like a guy like Volkov, when he went after the legs of Ciryl Gane, it was giving him problems. And if Volkov's giving you problems there, Alex is sure as hell going to give you problems. And we've seen not a lot of guys, they can't go tit for tat with Gane on the feet. They're not able to operate at a super high level with the fight IQ. Like a lot of these guys that just kind of duck and chuck, hope that they can catch Gane. That's not going to beat Ciryl Gane. You got to be able to be patient and have this tactical battle with him and be able to find a way to close the distance and beat Ciryl Gane. In order to beat Ciryl Gane, you need a couple things. Number one, you need a really, really good ground game. Now, I think Alex's takedown defense has gotten better, and he's shown that he's capable when the fight hits the floor. I don't think he's going to out-grapple Ciryl Gane. So that's kind of off the table. So what do you need? You need power, and you also need high-level technical striking. And Alex has that, so he can compete with Gane here. I think early on, Gane's going to be doing those little string bean shots. He's going to be throwing those little oblique shots. He's going to be popping the jab. It's going to be landing, kind of busting up the nose and the face of Alex a little bit. But Alex is one of these guys, man, throughout his career, he has fought just about every style of striker there is. Ankalaev, light on his feet, tactical, sharp boxing. Adesanya, excellent movement, great feints. And that's how you can get to Alex. You get him thinking. So if Ciryl Gane can get the feint game going, which we see, That's how you can frustrate Alex, right? Every time Alex starts to get close, ping him with the jab, circle off, move. Just play that game and frustrate him. And we've seen if you can frustrate Alex, he'll start to get overly aggressive, and those are going to be the opportunities to where Gane can really start to attack Alex to where maybe he could fatigue him, wear him down, and find some sort of mid to late round TKO. But I just don't think it happens, man. I don't think it happens. And I know you could say, well, look how Gane was doing against Aspinall, man. Like, I don't care. I'm sorry. Alex Pereira is the most high-level striker that Gane's ever been in there with. And I know that Gane, yeah, he's a high-level striker. I don't think he's the most high-level striker that Alex has ever fought. And a lot of the X factor here is the fact that Gane is just a heavyweight. That's the real X factor here, is the fact that he's the naturally bigger guy, and he's the established heavyweight, and he moves really well for a heavyweight. Alex Pereira is going to attack the lead. He's going to attack the lead leg of Gane. We know Gane predominantly is southpaw. He will switch from time to time. No matter the stance, Alex is going to butcher the lead legs, man. He will attack the calf. It's very, very hard to see. He doesn't, move his shoulders. He just kind of whips them out. There's no telegraph. His front kicks are nasty. He's got sneaky, fast high kicks. That switch kick that he threw, that high kick that landed on Yuri, how fast that was, man. There's like no telegraphs in Alex's movements. Right, he's got that long guard to where his shoulders are both square to where when he fires out the right hand, there's no shift in the shoulder. There's no telling the jab, right? And he'll jab the body, jab the chest line, and then eventually you reach, steps in, boom, the left hook comes around the guard. The thing that I think Ciryl has going for him in this fight is we don't really see Ciryl get really out of position. And that's where Alex is usually able to knock these guys out. He gets them out of position, they reach, they overextend, and he's able to find that left hook. I don't know that Gane gets out of position. Alex is going to have to pull him out of position to get the job done. But the way I look at this fight, Alex is going to go fishing with Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's going to be a bass circling around in the weeds, and Alex is going to be changing out the lures, throwing them out there, and they're just going to go boom, right in the face of Ciryl Gane. And it's going to be a matter of what can Alex get Ciryl to bite on. And then once he finds that answer, Ciryl Gane's going to take the bait, and then that's when Alex is going to land the shot. It's going to start with working the lead legs, taking away the movement, so that way Ciryl can't just run around the whole fight, make him more of a stationary target. The jabs are going to be firing. He'll bring him upstairs. He's got a powerful jab. We saw the right hand, the way that he pressured Ankalaev and was able to take him out very early. That was so impressive, man. And by the way, it's so clear that Alex was not himself in that first Ankalaev fight. Right? The way he came out in the rematch, he looked way faster, way more explosive. Maybe there's a potential we see Alex come out and just bombard Gane right away. Look to put him on his heels, surprise him, land a big shot. But I think Gane will be too slick for that right away. I think Alex is going to have to, have the, a patient approach. He's going to have to really, really work to get this done. Jabs to the body, jabs to the chest line, setting up the left hook, the right hand, bringing in some high kicks. Alex brings a full striking skill set to the table. Not just a winging overhand like a lot of heavyweights. Not a guy that's just going to shoot a takedown, and if it doesn't work at heavyweight, he's screwed. I think this fight plays out on the feet. I know people are like, well, Gane's got an underrated ground game, and yeah, he does have some submission skills, but he chases heel hooks and he makes a lot of mistakes on the ground. So even if it gets there, Alex does a good job of staying safe to where I think Gane would make a mistake, and then they'd get back to the feet. Alex is good takedown defense, and if Gane looks to grapple heavy, this is a 5-round fight. A guy that doesn't grapple a whole lot, I think that would wear on his gas tank. So I think this plays out on the feet the whole time. I think Ciryl Gane definitely has a shot to win the fight. He's very fast. He's got very, very good technique, good movement. I'm going to be curious to see because Gane had that Muay Thai background. He has that Muay Thai background to where maybe he kind of squares up the stance a little bit and turns the shin out not to be so bladed to be able to try to check the leg kicks of Alex Pereira. Because we've seen southpaws, even though I think that's a little bit of a myth, right? People saying that southpaws give Alex a really hard time. Not really. We see Alex, he can hide that left hook really well around the lead shoulder of southpaws. We could see him, snipe that right hand down the middle, right at the chest line. Those calf kicks, he can land them no matter what stance you were in. Alex, to me, hits harder. I think he's the smarter striker as well. I know that Alex, one of the weaknesses of his game is, sometimes he does move his head really well when he's, marching forward and kind of hunting you down, and then he looks to slip and counter, but sometimes he moves back and forth very, very linear and stays in a straight line to where if he does that and just tries to hide behind the long guard, I could see Gane firing right when Adesanya would throw the jab, leave it out there, fire the right hand. I could see Gane looking to do the same thing. Throw the jab, leave it, backhand behind it, maybe the shots around the guard. But Alex has very, very dialed in defense, man. His counters are nasty. He's got a ton of power, and he sets things up very, very well. And I feel like that's how you have to be able to beat Ciryl Gane. And I know that, Francis Ngannou, he was compromised in that fight, but he struggled with Gane a little bit. We saw Aspinall struggling with Gane. If Aspinall's landing leg kicks, if he's landing these shots, Aspinall telegraphs. Poatan doesn't telegraph. He hides things. He sets you up. I think Alex will eventually be able to, he'll be able to set up Ciryl Gane. I don't think either guy's gas tank will be an issue here. I think Alex, to me, he's the better striker. Gane, yes, faster. The established heavyweight. He moves well. I'm not counting Gane out whatsoever. But Alex is just a special fighter, man. One of the most devastating pound-for-pound punchers we've ever seen. One of the best fighters of all time. One of the best strikers of all time. Alex always has an answer for these high-level strikers. Gane is not going to bring some sort of surprise that Alex isn't expecting. And even if Gane is doing some things and Alex is having a hard time figuring him out, Alex just doesn't stare at the math equation and go, I don't know, Teach. I don't know, man. X squared plus, I don't know, man. He doesn't do that. He's going to be like, no. I've seen this before. Give me a second. I'll slow things down a little bit. Right? I'll rip more kicks to the body. I'll attack the leg. That's what he's going to do. Play defense early, attack the legs, jab to the body, play it safe, try to take away some of the movement of Gane. That's Alex's game plan. That's exactly what we're seeing his teammate Yusri Belgalroy doing. They have these big frames. Now, even though Gane's going to have a little bit of a reach advantage, Pereira can match him on the physicality, can match him on the height. You're going to have that lead hand battle where Alex will paw that lead hand to get the timing, or he can step in, throw the shovel hook. Alex is too high level on the feet, man. Too high level on the feet. He'll be able to figure out Ciryl Gane. Nothing that Gane's going to do is going to surprise him. I think Alex knocks out Ciryl Gane. And I think he's going to have to work for it because Gane's going to be fast early. That's why Alex will attack the legs. It's exactly what Yusri does. It's what they do. They fight behind the long guard, stay safe defensively, don't get yourself out of position early, attack the legs, slow down the opposition, wound the animal, back them up along the fence, make them a sitting duck, and then find that shot to be able to put them away. So I think Alex is going to break out the full skills, man. He's got some good elbows and knees in close, that flying knee, spinning attacks, high kicks. He can bring a dynamic striking skill set to the table, and I think that that's how you have to be able to beat Ciryl Gane. Patience, technique, setups, and power. Alex has all those things. I think he becomes the first ever 3-division UFC heavyweight champion. Shama. I think Alex Pereira gets it done, man. All right, last but not least, we have our main event of the evening. We have Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. I think that there's a lot of people out there that are making this fight out to be something that it's not. And I understand it's at the White House. In a way, it would be really, really crazy to see Gaethje get it done. And I think that would be cool. Like seeing Gaethje knock out Ilia Topuria, the moment that would be. And I think that would honestly be one of the biggest upsets that we've ever seen in the history of the sport. I think Ilia Topuria is that good. But I think people are being really delusional about Gaethje's chances in this fight. Now, when I say delusional, I'm not saying that Gaethje can't win this fight. Justin Gaethje, your favorite fighter's favorite fighter, the human highlight, a legend of the game, one of my favorite fighters of all time. I've been watching Justin Gaethje for years, man. Back when I think the PFL was on like NBC or whatever. Gaethje he's came a long way. At one point, he was just kind of Homer Simpson, walking forward in the range, no head movement, eating a bunch of shots just to land a bunch of leg kicks. That anti-grappling style, he's got really good takedown defense. The only guys that have had success against Justin Gaethje on the ground, really, is Charles Oliveira after he hurt him, was able to submit him, and Khabib Nurmagomedov. That's it. So, as good of a grappler as I think Ilia Topuria is, I do think that potentially could be a path to victory to where Ilia shoots a takedown, gets Gaethje down, and is able to find some sort of submission. That would be crazy impressive. I don't know that that's what happens, though. I think Gaethje has a shot. He's got power. He's a good striker. This fight, to me, is so unbelievably simple. It's going to depend on Justin's approach in this fight for how fast he's going to get finished. If Justin Gaethje comes out very reserved, very tactical, trying to play the Matador game, run around on the back foot like we saw him doing in the second Poirier fight, like we've seen him do in a lot of these fights recently, Ilia Topuria will have to hunt him down. And then it'll take a little bit longer to where maybe I could see it go into the second round, maybe extending a little bit past that. Ilia Topuria is going to flatline Justin Gaethje in the very first round, man. He's going to fold him like a lawn chair, and probably in the middle of the octagon or up along the fence. If Justin Gaethje comes out aggressive like he's talking about doing, which maybe he's bluffing, and to be honest, wouldn't be the craziest game plan. I think Gaethje's going to have a bunch of nerves coming into this to a degree. He's going to be all fired up. It's at the White House. His adrenaline's going to be going. He's saying, I want to be throwing missiles on the White House lawn. And we know Gaethje's a great striker. He's got nasty leg kicks, which I think are going to be a big part of his game. But if you've been watching Ilia's vlogs, he's checking kicks. He's very prepared for it. And we've seen Justin Gaethje butcher the legs of a lot of opponents, but when has he really leg kick TKO'd somebody? We've seen Jonathan Martinez do that. We haven't seen as good of as leg kicks as Gaethje has, and as good of an overall dynamic kicker as Gaethje has became, right? Good front kicks up the middle, some good high kicks. We saw him knock out Poirier with a high kick. I think he's going to be looking to do the whole nine. Attack the leg of Ilia because Ilia's got that boxing stance. Front kicks up the middle to try to push Ilia back. High kicks mixed in there because Herbert was able to land one. Jai Herbert's got some snappy high kicks, man. And that's clearly a hole that Ilia has patched. Volk was trying to throw high kicks. Holloway was trying to throw high kicks. I don't think Gaethje's going to land a head kick, man. So outside of that happening, what's he going to do? Just batter the lead legs of Ilia? It's not like Gaethje's leg kick TKOing anybody. You think that Ilia's not going to be prepared for that? Ilia is much faster than Gaethje. He's much sharper. He's a better grappler. Ilia is elite everywhere, man. To where if he even clips Gaethje on the feet, he can submit him on the ground. I think that he can take Gaethje down. Now, can he keep him there and find a submission? I think that's definitely possible. Now, I will say this. I do think that Gaethje, right, because I watched the Paddy Pimblett fight back, and I'm like, man, if Gaethje fights like that against Ilia, he's going to get knocked out in like the first exchange. But having said that, I feel like a lot of that was Gaethje just had no respect for Paddy Pimblett whatsoever. But at the same time, it's kind of crazy because anybody that thought Paddy was going to win, we were like, well, he'll just take down Gaethje and be able to submit him. We didn't think that he would have a chance against Gaethje on the feet. And the fact that, yeah, Gaethje almost had Paddy out of there a few times, he couldn't KO Paddy. Max Holloway put on a clinic against Gaethje, man. Ilia Topuria is very, very durable. And people are like, well, he gets hit, man. He got hit by Volkanovski. He got hit by Holloway. Oliveira landed a good elbow on him. How did all of those fights end, though? Ilia Topuria will find a shot on the chin of Justin Gaethje and will brutally knock him out, man. That's what's going to happen, and I think it happens in the very first round. It's just a matter of whatever Gaethje's approach is how long the fight will go. If he's very aggressive, wants to brawl and slug, which I think that there's some pros to that, right? Because Gaethje grabs the tie, has nasty little uppercuts in close to where maybe he could land a good shot on Ilia, time a left hook, roll under, land the right hand, spam the leg kicks, which he's going to have to be very careful doing because we've seen Gaethje load up all these leg kicks, gets himself out of position. We saw Oliveira step in and crack him with right hands. Ilia doesn't care about your leg kicks. We saw that in the Oliveira fight. He was willing to eat Charles's leg kicks just to step in and sting him with a jab because Ilia has that much power. He's that fast with his hands, and he's that precise and that sharp. He's probably going to bait Gaethje into throwing the leg kicks. He's literally probably going to stand sideways and be like, throw your leg kick. Boom, step in and sting him with a jab. And then Gaethje's going to smile, and he's going to be kind of trying to blink out, the shot. Ilia's going to start throwing to the body. We see Gaethje, he does a good job shelling up and rolling underneath, but he drops his head to where I think Ilia's going to look to throw those uppercuts. Then he's going to try to throw the shots to the body. Ilia Topuria, people are like, well, Gaethje's so durable, man. Ilia doesn't care about your durability. He's the only person to ever knock out Holloway. The only person to knock out Volkanovski the way he did. The only person to flatline Oliveira like that, man. People are like, well, what if Charles, he should have just grappled more. He tried. That's one of the biggest myths in MMA history. If Charles, with a more grapple-heavy game plan, he beats Ilia, he tried. That's how good Ilia is, man. And I think another thing that people aren't factoring in, I think Ilia is going to look even better than what we've seen. He's an established 55er now. He looks huge in his vlogs. And I know he's on the shorter side. People are like, he's not that big. He's short, but he's stout and he's compact and he's dense. He's a density maxer. I think Ilia Topuria's boxing is just too damn good. He's just too good at his ground games. Ilia Topuria is one of the most skilled and one of the best fighters of all time, man. His boxing is insane. His timing is ridiculous. Now, we saw Charles just kind of walk forward into range to where if Gaethje does that, he's getting knocked out early in this fight. If he walks forward into range, Ilia will counter him and knock him out. And I do think that Gaethje is going to try to pick those moments to brawl to get Ilia to swing with him to where he can land those shots. Ilia will think it's kind of a boxing match. That's where Gaethje can hammer away at the leg kicks. I think Gaethje should hide the leg kicks. Start off by not really acting like you're going to be throwing a bunch of leg kicks. Just jab and play defense. Because coming out throwing the kicks, that's what Ilia is going to do. Just step in and tag you with the hands. To where you're already going to be damaged. You're already going to be getting stung. So Gaethje, obviously we all know he's going to look to kick. He hasn't done a whole heck of a lot of it in his past few fights at least. I think he does it in this one. Gaethje's too hittable, man. He gets too reckless. I know he's got power. I know he's fun. I know he's a legend of the game. You can't really count out Gaethje. Ilia Topuria is a different breed and on a different level, man. It's just on a different level. And I know people are talking about, well, Gaethje's leg kicks. I think Ilia Topuria's got a better... Gaethje's a more dynamic kicker and has better overall leg kicks than Gaethje, but the guy that has the more tactical, precise kick is actually Ilia. His calf kick is nasty. I've been saying it's the unsung hero of how he beat Volkanovski and Holloway because those guys move a lot. They have much better footwork and movement and speed than Gaethje. I know that Gaethje, pound for pound, hits harder than those guys, even though Max, is hitting a lot harder at 55. Gaethje hits harder than those guys. But Ilia's got that calf kick, man, and I think he could land it on Gaethje, spin him around, take away some of the movement. That's how he made Volk more of a sitting duck, how he slowed down some of the movement of Holloway. Every combination that Ilia throws is with murderous intent to knock you out. And it's just going to be like what I said about Alex. Ilia's going to go fishing in this fight. He's going to be casting and seeing what bait Gaethje takes. And exactly what Ilia did. Boom, stepped in, stung Oliveira with the jab. Jab to the body. Got Oliveira to step in and swing to try to get payback. And then boom, that's when he threw the right hand right down the middle. So this is going to be Ilia Topuria hunting down Gaethje, prying him with the jab, stinging him up, getting him to open up, and then that is where Ilia is going to be able to counter and land a massive shot, even a left hook to the body, left hook around the guard. I think it's going to be a similar kind of sequence to the Oliveira fight to where Gaethje is going to be ducking, bobbing. Ilia, I could see landing an uppercut, taking him out, left hook behind it, but I think it's going to be behind the jab, Gaethje throwing the leg kicks, Gaethje will look to step in, and then bang, Ilia is going to catch him with a beautiful straight right hand, clean as a whistle, right down the middle, and he's going to knock out Justin Gaethje. And like I said, I feel like this is a Hunger Games type of fight, man, to where the cannon is going to sound, doom. Gaethje's a great fighter, man, but Ilia Topuria is a different level. Greatest 3-fight win streak of all time. About to be the greatest 4-fight win streak of all time. Knocking out Volkanovski the way he did. Out cold, by the way. Knocking out Max Holloway. Not out cold, but still nasty. Only person to ever knock him out. Knocking Oliveira out cold. Remember when Jeremy Stevens was like, when I knock people out, they don't fucking move. Ilia Topuria, when he knocks people out, they don't fucking move. Most brutal pound-for-pound KO puncher in the lighter weight classes that we have ever seen, man. His precision, the way he rolls his shoulders, his high guard, slides out of range, the shoulder roll, right? Kind of uses the lead hand to hide his eyes, traps your hands to fire off shots, blinds the opponent's eyes to set up these shots. Ilia Topuria is an elite boxer. You could drop him in an actual boxing ring and he could box with the elite dudes. So that's what this all comes down to in his fights. These guys might have better kicks, they might have good grappling and be good MMA fighters, but when push comes to shove, Ilia is going to force them into a professional boxing match, and the only pro boxer that Ilia is going to have to fight, the only guy that I think has pro-level all-around boxing skills, is Ilia Topuria. Maybe you could say Josh Van as well when it comes to the footwork, the movement, the defense, keeping his head off the center line. I think Ilia Topuria is going to look the best he ever has in his entire career. Gaethje, I know that he's a little older in his career. He's still one of the top guys in this weight class. He beat Paddy Pimblett. Now he's the guy that has to go in here and get KO'd. It's going to be a hard watch in a way, man, because I wanted to see Paddy Pimblett be the one to go in here because, yeah, the build-up would have been fun. I know Gaethje's talking a little bit of smack. Ilia would have destroyed Gaethje. So essentially, it was Justin versus Paddy, two guys that are not even basically top three in the weight class, right? Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan, Holloway, clearly better than Gaethje and Paddy. So this is kind of a weird title fight in a way, but Justin won the interim belt. I think the UFC thought Paddy was going to be able to get it done like a lot of people. Happy for Gaethje. Glad he was able to get the belt. But unfortunately, I think he gets brutally KO'd by Ilia Topuria in this fight, man. I just don't... What is Gaethje going to just run around and throw? Ilia's going to be prepared for that. Gaethje swings wild shots, and if there's ever a fighter that'll start with a good game plan and then just, it'll all go out the window, it's Gaethje. People rip on Chandler for bad fight IQ. We see that with Gaethje too. And I do think an advantage is working with Trevor Whitman because Trevor Whitman's a boxing-based guy, so he's going to be able to kind of, see Ilia's game, and he's going to be nerding out over it. I can see him now being like, as the fight's going, Gaethje will get knocked out, and Whitman will be smiling like the sicko he is, right? Joking, but yeah. So Whitman will have some ideas of how to attack Ilia, right, from the boxing eye. Ilia's way too fast, hits way too hard. Gaethje, yeah, he's a durable guy. Ilia's combos don't care about how durable you are. His precision, his timing, his power, next level. I think Ilia Topuria retires undefeated, man. The way he prepares, the way he gets himself ready for these fights, I feel like it's unlike anything that we have ever seen. Reminds me of a prime Connor. He just knows your holes. We hear him say like he prepares specific combinations for the opposition, for the mistakes that you make. I just think Gaethje makes way too many mistakes, man. You can't trust that he'll stick to a game plan. And maybe this is Gaethje's last fight. And if he already has that coming into this, he's going to maybe throw more caution to the wind. So if Gaethje abandons a tactical fight, I think he gets knocked out. And I know people are like, well, you should make it a brawl. You run the risk of just getting brutally KO'd. So I don't know, man. I think that I'm not counting out Gaethje to a degree because, of course, he's got power. A little bit overrated. When's the last time he's KO'd somebody with his hands? But he's still dangerous. And I think, we've seen Ilia get hit, but Ilia's defense is really, really good, man. Really, really good. He's going to be prepared for everything that Gaethje's done. And Ilia's a guy that adds new wrinkles to his game every single fight. What he did to Charles Oliveira, Volkanovski, and Holloway is absolutely absurd, man. I've never picked against Ilia. I don't think I ever will. I think he's the most talented fighter really in the UFC right now. His boxing is elite. His cardio is good. So if this goes 5 rounds, I think Ilia will be ready for it. He looks massive. He looks powerful. He looks sharp. He's going to be too sharp for Justin Gaethje, and his boxing will take out Gaethje at UFC Freedom 250.